I get it. When I was first starting out, I felt like I was constantly missing some secret rulebook that the wealthy seem to know. That's exactly why I made this video. Today, we're breaking down what I call the Wealth Code, a simple framework that shows you how anyone, regardless of where you're starting, can grow their money faster, avoid the biggest financial traps, and set yourself up for long-term success. So if you've ever felt stuck financially, this video is for you. Most people don't realize that the single biggest barrier keeping them from wealth isn't their income, their background, or even the opportunities available to them. It's their mindset. The way people think about money determines how they handle it, whether they grow it or lose it, and ultimately, whether they stay stuck or break free. The problem is that society has conditioned us with limiting beliefs. We've been told that wealth is only for the lucky, the privileged, or the highly educated. Many grow up hearing things like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or you have to work yourself to death to make a living. When you internalize these ideas, you subconsciously put a ceiling on what's possible for you. This mindset keeps people in a cycle of trading time for money, thinking that the harder they grind, the closer they'll get to financial freedom, when in reality, they're just running in place. The solution starts with rewiring how you think about money and wealth. Instead of seeing money as something scarce that you have to hold on to tightly, begin to see it as a tool that can grow, multiply, and work for you. Shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. It means training your brain to recognize opportunities rather than only focusing on obstacles. For example, instead of saying, I can't afford that, start asking, how can I afford that? That one change forces your brain to start solving problems and coming up with creative strategies. Another part of this shift is to stop seeing money as the end goal and start viewing it as fuel for freedom, security, and options in life. Wealth isn't just about having a fancy car or a bigger house. It's about having control over your time, the ability to make choices without financial stress, and the peace of mind that you're not living paycheck to paycheck. To bring this to life, let's take the example of two people starting out with the same job, earning the same income. Person A believes that their salary defines their limit. They save what they can, they don't invest because they think investing is risky, and they avoid new opportunities because they're scared of failure. They see wealth as something reserved for others, and as a result, they stay stuck. Person B, on the other hand, adopts a growth mindset. They realize their job is just a starting point, not the final destination. Instead of saying, I'll never get ahead on this income, they ask, what can I learn? What skills can I build, and what side opportunities can I explore to increase my value? When person B sees someone investing, they don't say, that's too risky. Instead, they ask, what can I learn about investing so I can start too? Over time, even though both people started in the same place, person B begins to see opportunities, builds multiple streams of income, invests wisely, and creates momentum that compounds year after year. This example highlights the truth your mindset shapes your reality. The wealth code doesn't start with a stock pick, a side hustle, or even a budgeting app. It starts with how you think about money. If you believe wealth is possible for you, if you see challenges as stepping stones instead of walls, and if you commit to learning and growing, then you unlock the very first and most powerful piece of the wealth code. One of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to building wealth is believing that saving alone is enough. We've all been told growing up to save for a rainy day, and that the key to financial security is cutting back on expenses, skipping that coffee, and living frugally. While saving is important, it's not a wealth-building strategy, it's just the foundation. The problem is that money sitting in a savings account is constantly losing value due to inflation. Even if you're disciplined and save 10 or 20% of your income, the interest you earn in a traditional savings account will almost never outpace the rising cost of living. This means that no matter how much you save, your money is effectively shrinking in real terms. People get caught in the trap of believing that by simply stashing money away, they're on the path to becoming wealthy when in reality, they're just standing still while expenses climb higher every year. The solution is to recognize that saving alone won't get you rich. You have to put your money to work. This means moving beyond the mindset of just cutting costs and into the mindset of growing your income and investments. Instead of only asking, how can I save more? Start asking, how can I make my money multiply? Savings accounts are safe, but they're not designed to build wealth. To break free from the saving trap, you need to take advantage of investment vehicles like index funds, real estate, or even starting a side business that generates cash flow. These options allow your money to compound over time, creating growth far beyond what saving could ever accomplish. It's not about abandoning saving altogether. Everyone should have an emergency fund to cover unexpected expenses. But once that safety net is in place, the next step is to channel your resources into opportunities that grow faster than inflation and expand your financial base. For example, consider someone who diligently saves $500 a month in a regular savings account at 1% interest. Over 10 years, they'll accumulate around $66,000, but adjusted for inflation, That money buys less than it did when they started. Now compare that to someone who invests the same 500 each month into a broad stock market index fund that historically returns an average of 7% annually. After 10 years, that same money grows to around 86,000, and the compounding effect continues to accelerate the longer they invest. The difference between the two outcomes is huge, and it's not because one person worked harder. It's because one understood the difference between saving and investing. Another example can be seen in real estate. Let's say someone uses their savings not just to let it sit in the bank, but as a down payment on a rental property. That property not only appreciates in value over time, but also generates monthly rental income. While one person's savings account grows by a few dollars in interest each month, the other is creating both passive cash flow and equity growth. Both people started with the discipline to save, but only the one who invested broke free from the trap and turned that discipline into long-term wealth. The point is clear: saving is safe, but safety alone doesn't build wealth. If you rely only on saving, you'll always be running against the clock of inflation and expenses. To get rich faster, you have to combine saving with strategies that actually grow your money. The wealth code isn't just about holding on to what you earn, it's about multiplying it. So every dollar you save turns into a soldier working to create more dollars on your behalf. The problem most people face when it comes to wealth is not understanding or underestimating the power of investing. They either think it's too complicated, too risky, or only for people with large amounts of money. As a result, they delay getting started, hoping that one day when they earn more, they'll finally invest. The reality is that by waiting, they're losing out on the single greatest tool available for building wealth faster: compounding. Compounding is what happens when your money doesn't just earn a return, but the returns themselves begin to earn returns. The longer you wait, the less time you give compounding to work in your favor, and this delay can cost you hundreds of thousands, even millions over a lifetime. The problem isn't that people don't know investing exists, it's that they underestimate how powerful small, consistent contributions can become over decades. The solution is to start investing early, consistently and intelligently, even with small amounts of money. You don't need to be a financial expert or have a fortune to begin. Thanks to index funds, ETFs, and platforms that make investing accessible with little to no fees, anyone can get started today. The key is to prioritize time in the market rather than trying to time the market. Instead of worrying about picking the perfect stock or waiting for the right moment, focus on building a habit of regularly investing in broad, diversified funds that spread risk and capture overall market growth. This approach leverages the historical tendency of markets to grow over the long run, even if there are short-term dips along the way. By treating investing as a long-term commitment rather than a quick gamble, you allow compounding to do the heavy lifting, and you avoid the emotional mistakes that cause so many people to buy high and sell low. To illustrate this, imagine two people, both of whom want to retire comfortably. Person A starts investing at age 25, putting away $300 a month into a market index fund that averages 7% annual returns. By age 65, without ever increasing their contributions, they will have invested a total of $144,000. But thanks to compounding, their account would grow to around $720,000. Person B, on the other hand, delays investing until age 35. They invest the same $300 per month and keep it up until age 65, which means they contribute a total of $108,000. However, because they started 10 years later, their account grows to only about $30,000-$40,000. The difference is staggering. One small decision to start earlier doubled the outcome, even though both people contributed nearly the same amount. This shows that time, not timing, is the secret to leveraging compounding. Another example is Albert Einstein's famous description of compounding as the eighth wonder of the world. Think about what happens if you double a single penny every day for 31 days. On day one, it's just a penny. After a week, it's still only 1.28. But by day 31, that penny has grown to over $10 million. That's the magic of exponential growth. And while investing doesn't literally double your money every day, the principle is the same: growth builds on itself, slowly at first, and then explosively over time. Too many people quit or never start because they don't see quick results, but compounding rewards patience more than effort. This is why the Wealth Code emphasizes the power of investing early. Even modest amounts can grow into substantial sums if given enough time. It's not about how much you invest at the start, it's about how long you allow compounding to work for you. By shifting the mindset from, "I'll start later when I have more," to, "I'll start now with what I have," you unlock the part of wealth building that accelerates everything else. The earlier you plant the seed, the bigger the tree grows, and once compounding takes root, it creates a momentum that becomes almost unstoppable. One of the most common financial problems people face is relying on a single source of income. For most, this means their job, their 9 to 5 paycheck. The danger with this setup is that it leaves people extremely vulnerable. If the company downsizes, if the economy shifts, or if they're suddenly unable to work, their entire financial stability can collapse overnight. Even without job loss, depending on one paycheck creates limitations. Salaries typically increase slowly, and raises rarely keep pace with inflation. So, even if you're working hard, your income might not actually be growing in real terms. This creates a ceiling on your financial potential, leaving people stuck in a cycle where no matter how much they save, they can't accelerate wealth at the pace they want. It's like trying to fill a bucket with just a dripping faucet. It will eventually fill, but painfully slowly. The solution is to diversify your income streams so that you're not dependent on just one source. Multiple income streams don't just provide security in case one dries up, they also accelerate wealth because you have more money coming in to save and invest. This can take many forms: a side hustle that generates active income, a small business that can grow over time, or passive income sources like rental properties, dividends from investments, or digital products that sell while you sleep. The key isn't necessarily to have 10 different streams, but to build a few strong ones that complement each other. Think of it like building a financial safety net. The more strands you weave, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. Instead of relying on a single paycheck, your money begins to come in from several directions, giving you stability, flexibility, and faster growth potential. A practical example of this can be seen in the story of someone who works a regular office job earning $50,000 a year. At first, their only income is that salary, and every bill, every savings contribution, and every investment has to come from that single source. Recognizing the limitation, they start freelancing online a few hours a week, offering graphic design services, and eventually bringing in an extra $500 per month. Then they take some of their savings and begin investing in dividend-paying stocks, which generate another $100 each month. Over time, they build a small online course that sells for $50, and even if only 10 people buy it a month, that's another $500. Suddenly, instead of $50,000 a year, their income is closer to $60,000. But more importantly, that extra $10,000 is money they can channel into investments or business growth, creating compounding opportunities. If their job disappears tomorrow, they're not left with nothing. They already have other streams flowing in. Another example can be found in real estate. Imagine someone saves for a few years and buys a duplex, living in one unit while renting out the other. The rental income covers their mortgage, effectively allowing them to live for free. They still keep their job income, but now they also have cash flow from the property. If they replicate this model over time, they could build a portfolio of rental properties that generates more income than their job. At that point, they've given themselves the option to quit working if they choose, or to keep working while enjoying the freedom that comes from financial independence. The lesson here isn't just about real estate. It's about recognizing that wealth grows exponentially when you stop depending on a single paycheck and start creating multiple channels of income. When you rely on only one stream, your financial life is fragile. When you build multiple streams, your financial life becomes resilient and scalable. This is why people who achieve wealth quickly often have a mix of active and passive income sources working together. They don't just trade time for money. They create systems that bring in money even when they're not working. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter and setting up your financial life so that no single event can knock it all down. A huge problem that holds people back from wealth isn't always the big financial decisions like what stock to buy or whether to invest in real estate, but rather the small, everyday money habits that quietly drain potential. Many people underestimate how powerful daily routines are when it comes to money. They might budget for the month but ignore the small, consistent leaks, like impulse spending, not tracking expenses, or relying on credit cards for things they can't afford. Over time, these habits compound in the wrong direction, creating debt, stress, and a cycle of always playing catch up. Even habits that seem harmless, like not paying bills on time or never reviewing financial statements, lead to late fees, missed opportunities, and wasted resources. The reality is that wealth isn't built on one big decision. It's built on the accumulation of small, consistent actions. And the problem is that most people have habits working against them instead of for them. The solution is to intentionally build smart money habits that align with wealth creation. Just like brushing your teeth keeps them healthy without requiring much thought, you can design financial habits that quietly build wealth in the background. Automating savings and investments is one example. Setting up an automatic transfer every time you get paid ensures that you're consistently putting money aside before you even have a chance to spend it. Tracking expenses regularly helps you stay aware of where your money is going and gives you control over your cash flow. Using credit cards responsibly, by paying off balances in full every month, builds your credit score and avoids debt traps. Creating the habit of reading or learning about personal finance just a few minutes each day compounds your knowledge, which leads to better decisions over time. These habits don't require massive effort, but their cumulative effect creates the foundation for wealth. For example, imagine two people both earning the same salary. Person A spends freely without tracking expenses, pays bills late, and saves only whatever is left at the end of the month. Person B, on the other hand, sets up automatic transfers to their savings and investment accounts the moment their paycheck arrives. They review their expenses weekly, catching unnecessary subscriptions or overspending early, and they always pay their credit cards in full. After a year, Person A has little to no savings and maybe even carries credit card debt with high interest, while Person B has built an emergency fund, invested consistently, and avoided unnecessary fees. The difference is not in their income, but in their habits. Over 10 years, the gap between these two approaches is massive, with person B building real wealth while person A struggles to get ahead. Another example comes from small lifestyle changes. Let's say someone develops the habit of bringing lunch from home instead of spending 15 a day eating out. That one choice saves around $300 a month, which they automatically invest in an index fund. Over the course of 20 years, at a 7% annual return, that habit alone turns into more than $150,000. On the surface, it's just lunch, but in reality, it's a habit that transformed into a six-figure difference. This shows how daily decisions, even ones that seem small or insignificant, can have an outsized impact when they're repeated over long periods. The key point is that wealth is built less on dramatic one-time moves and more on consistent, disciplined habits that work in your favor. Smart money habits remove the friction of decision-making, reduce the chances of costly mistakes, and create a system where wealth grows quietly in the background while you go about your life. Over time, these habits become second nature, and the momentum they generate can be the difference between staying stuck and breaking through to financial independence. One of the most common mistakes people make when trying to build wealth is chasing quick fixes and expecting overnight results. The problem is that this approach almost always backfires. People see flashy ads about get-rich-quick schemes, jump into high-risk investments without understanding them, or constantly switch strategies when they don't see immediate success. This short-term mentality leads to frustration, poor decision-making, and often financial losses. Even when people do stick with a strategy for a little while, they give up too soon because they don't see progress fast enough. Wealth doesn't work that way. It rarely comes in big, sudden windfalls. Instead, it's the product of steady, consistent effort compounded over time. The problem is not that people lack opportunities, it's that they lack patience and discipline to stick with proven strategies long enough to see them pay off. The solution is to embrace a long-term playbook for wealth building. This means understanding that financial independence is not a sprint but a marathon. Instead of constantly searching for shortcuts, focus on strategies that have stood the test of time. Consistent investing, disciplined saving, and building multiple income streams. These approaches may not feel exciting in the short term, but over years and decades, they outperform almost every flashy promise out there. The long-term playbook also means preparing for setbacks and market downturns. Markets will rise and fall. Businesses will face challenges, and unexpected expenses will pop up. But with a long-term perspective, these moments don't derail the plan. They're just part of the journey. By committing to consistency and not getting distracted by every new opportunity, you allow compounding and growth to do their work. The long-term mindset creates resilience, which is just as important as growth itself. For example, imagine two investors who each have worth $100,000. Investor A wants fast results, so they jump into a risky penny stock or cryptocurrency, hoping to double their money quickly. Sometimes they win, but more often they lose, and when they do, they panic, sell at the wrong time, and walk away with far less than they started. Investor B, on the other hand, takes that same $100,000 and invested in a broad index fund, contributing a little more each month. After 5 years, Investor B may not see explosive growth, but their portfolio has grown steadily and weathered market ups and downs. After 20 years, Investor B's account has multiplied several times over, while Investor A is still chasing the next big thing. The difference isn't intelligence, it's patience and discipline. Another example is building a business. Many people start with excitement, hoping to see profits right away. When the results don't come quickly, they quit, assuming it's not working. But the entrepreneurs who succeed are the ones who stick it out, improve gradually, and keep showing up even when progress feels slow. A side hustle that only makes a few $100s in its first year might seem insignificant, but with persistence, that business could grow into a six-figure income stream over time. The same applies to real estate. A rental property might feel like a burden in the first year or two, especially with repairs and vacancies, but over a decade, it becomes a steady source of cash flow and equity growth. The people who win are the ones who play the long game and understand that time is their biggest asset. Wealth is less about making the perfect move at the perfect moment and more about sticking with a solid plan long enough to let it work. When you shift from chasing short-term gains to building long-term systems, you create stability, predictability, and exponential growth. The long-term playbook is not about excitement, it's about results. By focusing on patience, consistency, and resilience, you set yourself up to not just get rich, but stay rich, regardless of what life throws at you. So to quickly recap, breaking the wealth code really comes down to 6 key things. First, shifting your mindset so you actually believe wealth is possible for you. Second, understanding that saving alone won't get you there. You need to put your money to work. Third, starting early with investing so compounding has time to do the heavy lifting. Fourth, building multiple income streams instead of relying on just one paycheck. Fifth, creating smart daily money habits that quietly build wealth in the background. And sixth, sticking to the long-term playbook because consistency always outperforms quick fixes. If you got value from this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below on which of these 6 points you're going to focus on first. I read every comment and I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't go anywhere, because in the next video, I'm breaking down the exact strategies millionaires are using right now to protect and grow their wealth in today's economy. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.